Today is day 15 of our incubation journey. For the past 2 weeks, these eggs have been quietly developing inside the incubator. We have already checked them during the earlier stages of development. But today, things look very different. The embryos are much larger now, and there is much less light passing through the eggs. So today, I'm going to candle all 7 eggs and take a closer look at their development. Let's see what is happening inside. As we move from egg to egg, the developing embryos are becoming larger and the eggs are getting darker. This is exactly what we expect at this stage of incubation. In this egg, the strong light makes some of the details more difficult to see. But the important point is that a darker egg on day 15 does not automatically mean that something is wrong. At this stage, the growing chick blocks much of the light. That's why movement and the overall appearance of the developing structures are often more useful than simply judging how bright or dark the egg looks. Look closely at this egg. You can clearly see the network of blood vessels spreading throughout the egg. These vessels are supplying the growing embryo with oxygen and nutrients. At day 15, the embryo is much larger, so the egg appears considerably darker than it did during our earlier candling. These blood vessels are one of the important signs we look for during candling because they show that the developing embryo has an active circulatory system. This is a very different picture from what we saw during the first week. Now let's move from egg to egg. As we continue checking them, we can see that the embryos have reached a much more advanced stage of development. Some eggs allow us to see more detail than others. And that's completely normal. The shell thickness, the position of the embryo, the amount of light, and even the angle of the flashlight can all affect what we see. So candling is not about making every egg look exactly the same. We are looking for the overall signs of continued development. As we move from egg to egg, the developing embryos are becoming larger and the eggs are getting darker. This is exactly what we expect at this stage of incubation. In this egg, the strong light makes some of the details more difficult to see. But the important point is that a darker egg on day 15 does not automatically mean that something is wrong. At this stage, the growing chick blocks much of the light. That's why movement and the overall appearance of the developing structures are often more useful than simply judging how bright or dark the egg looks. So, what are we looking for when we candle an egg around day 15? First, we want to see evidence of continued development. A large, developing embryo is expected at this stage. We also look for blood vessels and, when visible, movement from the embryo. Sometimes the chick moves immediately when the egg is moved. Other times, it may remain still for several seconds. So a lack of movement in a single moment does not automatically mean that the embryo has died. The position of the chick inside the egg can also make movement difficult to see. But what would make us concerned? One possible warning sign is a blood ring. A blood ring can appear when an embryo has died during an earlier stage of development. Instead of seeing a normal network of developing blood vessels, we may see a distinct dark or reddish ring. Another concern would be an embryo that appears not to have developed further, especially when there are no normal blood vessels associated with it. However, candling can sometimes be difficult to interpret. So if an egg looks uncertain, we should avoid making a decision based on one quick look. And now, after checking all 7 eggs, the result is very encouraging. All 7 eggs are showing signs consistent with continued development. We can see developing embryos, and in some of the eggs, the blood vessel network is clearly visible. I don't see an obvious blood ring or a clear sign of early embryo death in these eggs. So, at day 15, all 7 are still on their journey toward hatching. 7 eggs. 7 developing embryos. And hopefully, 7 healthy chicks. But the journey is not over yet. Day 15 is complete. All 7 eggs are still showing encouraging signs of development. But now the most exciting part of this journey is getting closer. In just a few more days, these tiny developing embryos will be ready to hatch. Will all 7 eggs hatch successfully? That's the question. We'll have to wait and see. If you want to follow this incubation journey all the way from the eggs to the moment the chicks hatch, Subscribe to Village Oven and join me for the next update. I'll see you on day 18.